What up, guys? Welcome back to Get Close. I'm your host, Bart.
I'm Gio.
And today I'm really excited because I don't know if you know this. Well, you probably don't because I never told you. But I'm actually a huge fan of yours, starting when I was probably in high school. So I got into lifting I know I look like a
prehistoric dinosaur age when I was lifting.
Yeah, but like I got into lifting when I was in high school. This is pre-YouTube because I went to high school like in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
And so you would get your lifting training from like Iron Magazine, Muscle and Fitness, that kind of stuff. Like you would like maybe search a little bit online. And when I first got into lifting, I think a lot of people get into it like more in the bodybuilding, especially during that phase. And I grew up in LA. And then once I started seeing people train really hard, I didn't even know that it was called powerlifting, but I was just like, those jacked guys that lift fewer reps, but really heavy and hardcore, I liked it. And I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you remember, but when you and Johnny Jackson had the back and forth beef on who's the strongest IFBB pro.
Yeah, 2009.
I was like, this is sick. Yeah. This is like WWE, UFC, and then bodybuilding, powerlifting coming together.
What was the beef like? Was it like, you're going down, you're a bitch?
So a lot of the bodybuilders at the time, they're focused on like super high reps and stuff, like Kai Green, for example, right? Mm-hmm. One of the greatest bodybuilders of all time. Mm-hmm. But then he's doing these squats with like 135 for a ton of reps. And he's all talking about mind-muscle connection. You feel every single fiber. Yeah. And I'm like, I get that. But I'm like, I also know your legs aren't that big from hitting 135. And then so when I saw like guys like Stan, like Johnny Jackson, and just going crazy, I was like, that's what I like just being a straight animal. So from there, I know you've totaled over 2,300 pounds. You're a professional bodybuilder, one of the top greatest powerlifters of all time. So I just want to say that I'm very excited and happy, and I feel blessed to be in your presence.
Thank you. And we're neighbors now.
Yes.
I was shocked. I just bumped into you guys at the water park here with the kids here in Las Vegas. And I really appreciate the invite.
I love that you were like casually just being with your kids and stuff, but like you were like this statue, and you're like, you just look like this perfect statue, and everyone around you is like, wow, this superhero is like right next to us. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know who that is. Like, It didn't matter how many people were around. Like, there's Stan. Like, it was dope.
That's funny. Yeah, my kids have no idea. My wife said one time in the car, she said, you know, your dad's one of the strongest men in the world. And my son, who was 6 at the time, says,
like, I don't care.
He says, no, Thor is. Because I've worked with Hafthor, and Hafthor's been at the house. So my son's seen Hafthor compared to his dad. So I'm this little guy, really, in comparison to the characters that he's had the chance to meet.
How tall is he?
Hafthor's 6'9", 440 pounds at the time when he came out to the house. And so my son he's like, no, Hafthor. I'm like, go to your room.
No ice cream for a month.
Yeah. So the kids aren't impressed. I keep trying to tell them, you know, I'm a pretty big deal. And they're like, yeah, whatever. Matter of fact, I was at the bookstore and my book came out, The Vertical Diet.
Yes.
Hard copy came out with Victory Belt Publishing. And so I ran right over to Barnes and Noble, acting like it wasn't my book I was looking for. And it was kind of hidden in the corner, you know, with the end sticking out. And of course I had to take it and put it face out.
Yes.
Move some space and set my book out. And so I said to my daughter, who's 9, I said, look, isn't this exciting? Dad has a book at Barnes & Noble. She goes, Dad, there's lots of books at Barnes & Noble.
Oh, my God.
So I can't win with those guys. They're just not impressed. So I'm glad at least you're a fan.
Do you ever go like, ask your friends how many of their parents have books in Barnes & Noble?
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy.
Or look at your friend's dad and see if his biceps are even as big as my ankles.
I don't even think she realizes it yet. She said the other day, there's a boy in class that has a crush on her. And I said, well, I'm going to have to beat him up.
Nice.
And that's really my whole goal now. She's 9. And I figure if I can just get her through high school, I have to stay jacked until she's done with high school. And then she's on her own and I can, go on my merry way and eat bonbons in front of the swimming pool. And I don't have to lift anymore. But until then, that's really the main purpose for continuing to lift. For
the daughter.
I can't even imagine you going like, that's it. I'm done. Here we go. Bonbons.
Mm-hmm. I was going to quit years ago. And then I went down and I started training with Mike O'Hearn down in Venice.
Venice, yeah.
And my God, he set the bar so high. I just felt bad about myself. I got in there.
How old is he?
He's 1 year younger than me. He's 52. I'm 53, almost 54.
Yeah, he's like shredded year round.
He's amazing, and he's incredibly strong. Yeah. Particularly, I specialized in powerlifting, and I had a really high end, one lift, bench squat and deadlift, my max. But you take Mike and he competed in powerlifting and very well. He's extremely strong. But you put him on any machine in the gym, bicep curls, tricep extension, lying hamstring curls, leg extensions. He's got the stack and a plate, and he would just smoke you on any exercise.
Wow.
I don't care how good you are as a power lifter. Mike will take you to some exercise that's other than a bench squat and deadlift and just kick your ass all over the place.
But does it even matter if it's not a squat,
like his tendons are built of steel or something.
Yeah.
I went down there and we did an arm workout, and I couldn't reach my head for like 3 days because my elbows, he's still doing skull crushers over 50 years old. I knocked those out of my routine like a decade or more ago.
Wow.
Because of the tendonitis issues that you get from a lot of that stuff. And Mike doesn't care. He'll do reverse grip presses and skull crushers with 2 1/4, and he doesn't care.
I remember you guys did like a squat off or something out of a monolift. And it was like up to like 5 plates. And then what happened?
That was Big Game Moan's gym up in Seattle. It was originally my gym. It was Flex Wheeler Fitness that I owned up there, and I sold it to Gabe. And he invited us up, so Mike and I went up there and we did a squat off, and it was good. Yeah, we did 500 pounds for reps, and then we dropped down to 315 for 3 sets of 20 right afterwards.
Oh my goodness.
That's it.
Who won the 500 pounds for reps?
I think Mike got more reps than I did, but mine were deeper.
Nice.
Of course.
And I do that on purpose because I didn't think, even if I had cut him a little more shallow, I think he would have gotten more reps. So I just went deeper so I could get the audience approval. That's Eddie Cohn told me many years ago. He goes, win the crowd. What was that? What movie was that? Win the crowd. That was Gladiator.
Oh,
win the crowd, win the mob,
Yep.
And so Eddie always said, it wasn't enough just to get a white light from the judges. You wanted to make sure that the audience, the YouTube viewers and those people approved of your lift.
Yeah.
And so we would always go a little more than necessary. Eddie always was really good about strict form. I've had a few lifts that I wasn't terribly proud of, but the big ones, you try and sink them a little bit deeper just so you can win the crowd. But that was my strategy for the day. And then later, I don't know if it was a couple of years later, I went over and lifted against Larry Wheels, who everybody knows.
Oh my God.
Just extraordinary talent.
Yeah.
And I lifted with him probably the first time back in 2000.
Competed against him or just have a training session?
Just went out and trained with him. Probably the early 2012 or 13 or something. It was maybe it was shortly after I finished my last beat. But we were going to squat. And Larry was a lot stronger than me at the time. I think I had retired from powerlifting at the time. So I went to a gym about a mile down the street and warmed up. I'm an old guy. I'm like the Tin Man without the oil can. You can almost hear the creaking and groaning. See, I got a little pop there.
So you warm up at another gym before you meet up with him?
I warmed up at the other gym. This was my strategy
going
into this whole event, right? Because Larry was stronger than me and he was going to beat me that day. So I went down the street and I warmed up. I did some leg presses and I got myself all warm. I got my knees in good shape and I got my heart rate up a little bit. And then I drove straight to the gym, jumped out of the car and told Larry I had a flight to catch in 2 hours. I said, we got to get going. And threw him under the bar as fast as I could and went up 1 plate, 2 plates, 3 plates, 4 plates, 5 plates as quick as we could. And then I jumped under and hit my 20 reps. And Larry,
20 at 495?
He wasn't warmed up.
Yeah.
It was 405.
Oh, okay.
I had 405 for 20, and Larry wasn't warmed up. When you go 0 to 100 cardiovascularly, and particularly, it just hits you hard.
Yeah, especially if you're not used to it.
Yeah, you got to kind of get your cardio going. You got to get a few warm up sets in. And
nice strategy. I see what you're doing.
See, I'm a thinker. The old guy, he's got to use wisdom.
You got the gym IQ.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I hit the 405 for 20. So Larry threw on 500. He was going to try to do 500 for 20, and he was banging them out. 8, 9, 10, 11. 12, 13.
At that point, you're like, I got him.
Yep, I got him. I could see him. and so he put all of it into there, and then he completely gassed out. And you know what it's like when you completely put everything into a set. Your legs are just like spaghetti.
Yeah, you're done. And
so immediately after that, I pull it down to 315 and do another set. I can't remember if I left it at 405. I think it went down to 315 and did another set of 20. And I'm like, come on, Larry, you're up. and did that to him. Just took him into deep water, which is what all us old guys like to do with the stronger guys.
Yeah.
We just
Come
take
on,
them into
young
deep
guy.
water as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
You know? This isn't something I invented. I've seen Rich Gaspari used to do that to guys all the time.
Yeah.
He would get them in there and do 100 rep sets and stuff.
Oh my
Holy
God.
shit.
Yeah, and it just once you got them into deep water, they were spaghetti. They couldn't even move. So that was my strategy. So that's what I do now. I'm more of a circus sideshow act.
Us too. Yeah, I get it. No, that's freaking funny. That's funny that you did that.
So like I know you've crushed it in so many realms: powerlifting, bodybuilding. You wrote the book, Vertical Diet. You have Monster Mash. Is there anything else that you've done that I don't know about?
Well, before I got back into competing, I was competing from 1986 through 1996, 97 actually. And I wanted to be a pro bodybuilder, but I was a little guy. I was 135 pounds.
Did you do powerlifting first or bodybuilding first?
Bodybuilding. I was so small. I was 135 pounds in college.
Wow.
18 years old, freshman at the University of Oregon. I had a soccer scholarship. And
Wow.
I just started lifting weights. My coach wanted me to get bigger, and I just fell in love with lifting weights. And so I moved away from soccer. And I wanted to be a pro bodybuilder. I picked up a magazine, and there was, fantastic physiques in there, and that's what I wanted to be. And I tell you, for what seemed like 6, 7, 8 years, people just laughed at me because I was such a skinny kid.
Yeah.
My first show, after 2 years of training, I weighed 158 pounds on stage.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was my first bodybuilding show. And I just kept going and going and going. And I was 168, and then I was 178. And then I won the Mr. Oregon weighing 201 pounds. I remember the day I weighed 200 pounds, I was like, so happy, And I'm a skinny kid. So that, of course, that you don't own that. You get to 200 pounds one day, and then you're fighting like hell to stay there. And next thing you know, you're 196 again. And then fight back up to 200. And then, you go to the bathroom and you're 198. And you're like, so that has kind of been the story. I was just a small guy. I was always strong though. Even when I was 170, 180, I was still able to do the single rep stuff pretty well. And so I did kind of have I think a propensity for that, for the powerlifting.
Did you just give up soccer altogether?
Gave it up altogether, yeah. I was just lifting. And this was in college. So I was carrying food around in my backpack instead of books and just eating every 3 hours on a clock. I'd set my clock for that. And I would steal all the food I could from the cafeteria at the school and make big Tupperwares full of eggs and chicken. It was one of the big problems is that back then we didn't have all the information we have now.
Yeah.
Didn't have the internet. And so your source of information was really the guy behind the gym at Gold, or the counter at Gold's Gym.
Yeah.
Not the greatest resource.
Yeah.
And he was eating tuna fish out of a can and rice cakes because he was prepping for a bodybuilding show. And so you walk into the gym and you're like, oh, that dude's huge. He looks great. He's got veins. He's massive. He's eating tuna fish and rice cakes. So you start eating tuna fish and rice cakes. How much mass can you put on with tuna fish and rice cakes as a 165-pound guy with a metabolism like the Tasmanian devil? So I struggled for, seemed like years, training 6-7 days a week, 2 hours a day, eating like a bird, eating a lot, but it was the food was so lean and so low in calories that it wasn't enough to grow. So the script kind of flipped when I met a gym owner that was a promoter that was actually training people. And he told me to do just the opposite. You need to train less and eat more. And that's been my philosophy ever since. And of course, I bulked up eventually by 1995 or 1994. I was almost 300 pounds.
Wow.
And then I would diet down for bodybuilding and I would bulk back up for powerlifting. I would diet down for bodybuilding, bulk back up for powerlifting. And I've done that throughout my life. I've probably gained and lost well over 1,000 pounds, easily over 1,000 pounds throughout my career of bulking and dieting. And that's kind of what spawned the vertical diet because you learn a lot of lessons along the way. When you over restrict with dieting, the tuna fish and rice cakes, or the egg whites, tilapia and broccoli that's so popular now, which was popular in the 80s, the late 80s too. And I used to get my athletes off of those programs because they would have so many problems. It would manifest in, the skin, hair, and nails drying out, and the hypothyroidism, and all of those things, the low iron, and the amenorrhea, the women suffering from cessation of the menstrual period, and all these things would happen. And so I would incorporate foods that would make that less likely to happen, so you could hold on to more muscle longer. And so I kept red meat in the diet. I kept dairy in the diet. I kept fruit in the diet. I've been doing this since the early 90s as a result of having personally experienced and with my clients, seeing what the alternative provided. And it wasn't until all these many years later when social media became so prevalent and the fitness industry exploded. Over the last 7 years, it's just extraordinary what's happened.
Yeah, it's insane.
And they got fitness and figure and physique and bikini and, all that stuff now, and wellness, et cetera. And when it was confined to that industry, it was, a small thing. I'm talking about these over-restricted diets and all these health issues that women experience in particular. And men too, although they cheat a lot more than women and they eat more food. So generally they don't have as significant of problems. They just lose a lot of muscle in these pre-contest diets if they're not done correctly. But then the general public, the soccer moms, started seeing these women on stage in the best shape of their life. And they didn't see everything behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. They didn't see the hypothyroidism and the hair falling out and the depression and the amenorrhea and the low iron. They didn't see them at the doctor's office getting shots for B12 and vitamin D and iron supplementation and, antidepressants, et cetera, things that I see almost, regularly. It just got out of hand. When the general public started adopting those kinds of diets, what I call the guru diet, the fitness industry diet, which is very common. If you go into almost any guru in the industry or any fitness professional, you walk out of there with egg whites, tilapia, and broccoli. Mm-hmm. That's what you walk out of there with. And 2 hours a day of cardio. That's what you walk out of there with. And it's unfortunate because a lot of these women don't understand that the general public, the soccer moms, don't understand that in this industry, a lot of these women will use things like Anavar to retain their muscle tissue, which otherwise would be lost. Things like thyroid, which, otherwise they're getting hypothyroid and their hair's falling out and they're suffering from all those problems. And clenbuterol and other, central nervous system stimulators. And so they are burning, more fat at a higher rate than what your average soccer mom would. And so, when they started just copying the diet and didn't understand, all of these problems going on. And so I started becoming more and more vocal about that, started speaking out about what I thought was the wrong kind of diet and the kind of problems it was solving in the industry. And so I started coming out with the vertical diet and doing seminars and podcasts and YouTube, videos. And it was very well received. People started seeing that, oh yeah, okay, we can do this and achieve the same results without all of the suffering, without the 2 hours a day of cardio and all those other problems that were occurring and the deficiencies and the over-restrictive diets. And we can keep red meat in the diet, which is hugely important
and delicious.
For women. And it's delicious. It tastes good. Who'd have believed it? And, we wear it as a badge of honor how much we suffer. That's what we do in this industry. We talk about how much we suffer.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, to what end?
You don't have to.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
To what benefit? It's a calorie equation at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, and then as time progresses, it's a matter of lean mass retention with adequate protein. And then, of course, micronutrients becomes essential, as we just discussed, in all those problems. So that's kind of how the vertical diet started. And then I started on that half of the population, the dieting half of the population. And then I, as a powerlifter, I bulked many times throughout my career. Dirty bulks, the gallon of milk a day, the Go Mad diet.
I love dirty bulk.
Yeah.
So much.
And I started experiencing all the same problems that dirty bulkers experience. I started getting metabolic syndrome. I started having elevated blood pressure and fatty liver. And I would see these things happening, insulin resistance. And
how do you know you have a fatty liver? Like an X-ray or?
Yes, the best way to tell is to go get an ultrasound.
I see.
That's the best way to tell. It doesn't always appear in your AST, ALT, and your liver enzymes. It doesn't always appear there.
Yeah.
And certainly not initially.
And that's like your visceral fat, right? Like fat
that's
around the organs.
That's your visceral fat around your organs, yeah. And that's what starts to manifest itself in things like insulin resistance and high blood pressure.
I see.
All those problems that occur with a lot of these weight gainers, the power lifters, the strong men, even the off-season bodybuilders. And so it's just not very healthy. And I've done a rant talking about, the difference between health and fitness. And I do understand that, I think I called it, if you want to be healthy, don't compete.
Yeah.
And that's not just exclusive to bodybuilders and powerlifters and the like. I just was talking specifically about competition and how you do make sacrifices. And that includes 14-year-old gymnasts in the Olympics and the kinds of, challenges that they go through with surgeries and, tendons and that kind of thing. And even 10-year-old badminton players in China with lateral collateral ligament blowouts, just from, repetitive strain and that kind of thing. Competing is not necessarily healthy.
True.
But you can mitigate the damage. You can make some wise decisions in terms of obviously your training and your progressions, but also in terms of your diet. The dirty bulks, too many too much of a calorie surplus and the wrong kinds of foods, too high in saturated fats, and then your lipids start to skyrocket. And so I experienced all that stuff myself. And how did I know? I got blood tests. That was one of the things I did, I think, differently than most bodybuilders historically. And it's more and more becoming prevalent that is necessary. I've had over 100 blood tests in the last 10 years. I did
what gave you the hunch to have to get blood tests and get like data early on?
I was hypogonadal in college.
What does that mean?
I had varicocele. I had low T.
Oh.
I had varicocele, which is a vein that doesn't drain from the testicle. And so it can choke out the testicle from creating, it doesn't cause hypogonadism in all, but it's a higher percentage of people.
Wow.
And that was when I first discovered that about blood testing and
wow.
And how important that was, of course. So I was hypogonadal at 20 years old. And that's when, and of course, the doctor at the time wouldn't prescribe testosterone therapy to a 20-year-old in college because I was at my college doctor. But that kind of introduced me to the importance of blood testing and what other, variables could be addressed. And then as the years progressed, I learned more and more about that. And so now we have pretty comprehensive panels that we recommend to our athletes in particular. And then our clients, if they have a difficult time achieving the results that they want, say 30, 60 days into a program, we've kind of ruled out compliance, which is generally 99% of the time. It's underestimating the calorie intake and overestimating the energy output.
Yeah, they're like, we don't snack.
No.
And then you look at like all the pictures, like the jar of jelly beans on their desk keeps going down.
Yeah.
Like you snack every day.
And I hate blaming, I always said that in this industry that the people always want to play pin the tail on the donkey and find somebody to blame. But I've said that the victim is also the responsible party. And that's the
100%.
challenge in this business, is because you don't want to accuse somebody of something, but you do want to make them aware that that's something that you have to control. Mm-hmm. Hunger and energy, because satiety is one of the primary driver of weight loss maintenance. And so, we dive into that pretty heavily into the book, and into my ebook. We talk about more than just nutrition. We talk about the psychological aspect. We talk about the physiological aspect, about how to manage hunger, how to provide adequate micronutrients, and talk about how sleep impacts, the hormones that lead to hunger, and how exercise, even over-exercising, can lead to compensation where people get tired and sit more. So all of these things I try and address from many, many years of having been through this myself. From college, where I studied exercise science, earned a science degree at University of Oregon.
Oh, yeah, that is what your degree's in, right?
Yeah. To, competing, obviously, those are my anecdotes, to coaching, and those are my testimonials, to collaborations with great coaches, and, more recently, partnering with a PhD RDN who was head of the dietetic department at UNLV. About 3 years ago, we started going over all of this information and making sure that it was science-based, because the industry has taken a hard turn into science-based. The academics are very vocal, and rightfully so, about a lot of the things historically that have been recommended that were, kind of witchcraft or
bro science.
Or bro science, yeah.
Alrighty, gentlemen, this is for you. And ladies who have gentlemen in your life, you do want to listen up. I want to introduce you guys to Mack Weldon. Also, thank you for sponsoring this podcast. Okay, gentlemen, so stop thinking about what it is that you have to wear and embrace the radically efficient Mack Weldon, what they coin the daily wear system. Okay, so what is that? The daily wear system is a selection of clothes rooted in smart design, made with performance fabrics, aka Bart's favorite because he runs hot. So anytime performance fabrics is included, he's all in. And also it's built to work together. So I'm talking about breathable t-shirts and polos to stylish button-ups and shorts, underwear, and beyond. You don't want to miss out on this. Mack Weldon makes it easy for you to dress for work, leisure, and play, or whatever it is you have in store for your day. Right now, for everyone listening, you guys can buy the Mack Weldon Daily Wear System for 20% off your first order, okay? So right now, everyone listening, you guys are gonna get 20% off your first order. Just visit macweldon.com/Bill and enter promo code BILL, B-E-A-W. That's macweldon.com/Bill. Again, promo code BILL for 20% off. Mac Weldon, don't forget it. It's radically efficient wardrobing. Thank you so much to Skylight Frame for sponsoring this podcast. If you guys haven't already heard me talk about Skylight Frame since like forever, let me introduce you to them. Skylight Frame is a photo frame that you can update instantly by email from anywhere. So it's a digital photo frame. And I ended up getting this for members of my family. And because, as you guys know, I used to live in California, now I live in Vegas, and I miss them. But it's super rad that now they have Skylight Frame because I'm able to drop them some really cool memories whenever it is that I miss them or I think about them. I just email a photo to them and it automatically gets uploaded into their frame. And then I'll get a text or a video or a picture saying, hey, did you do this? Or, oh, this is so cool. Or, oh my God, this is so cute. And it's such a cool feeling to let them know that you love them in such a simple but very deep way. For everyone listening right now, we have a special offer. You're going to get $10 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com and enter code BILL, B-E-A-W. That's right, $10 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame. Just go to skylightframe.com and enter code BILL. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com. And don't forget the promo. Enter code BILL, B-E-A-W.
What's interesting, though, when you get a guy like Alan Aragon, who's a fantastic resource in the industry, he's said many times that, hey, for the most part, the bros were right. They learned this through trial and error.
Yeah.
And a lot of the research that we see coming out has seemed to confirm what most of the great athletes have been doing.
Yeah.
There's obviously, outliers and people who are successful in spite of themselves. But for the most part, a lot of the stuff that has been going on in the industry that amongst the most successful athletes is pretty consistent with what the literature is showing today.
No, I love what you're doing because so I come from a family that's more on the heavier side.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, like fitness has exploded. Like I had never seen how like quickly everything just like exploded, expanded, the knowledge within these 7 years that you mentioned. And my family, at least, I shouldn't put them on blast, but my family,
put them on blast.
I've already done that. I did an obesity rant about my family, which my wife's Samoan, and I've been to the islands and I've done presentations at the high schools there, and it's a big challenge. So please,
it is. So like, we've always talked about like, I need to eat better, I need to do this, or I should stop eating this. But then, you go to their pantry and there's like cookies and there's this stuff and then there's like lemonade, but it's not Coke, and it's and for me, I'm in the space, so I do understand how nutrition works. Like I've done the broccoli and the chicken breast and the oatmeal and all that stuff I've tracked macros, I've done all that. And then going into their space and going, well, the answer is actually really easy. We got to cut this out. But it's kind of daunting.
It is.
Like for someone that's not familiar with it, and culturally the food, like I'm Mexican, so culturally like the food is very rich. Yeah. So like me going in as someone that's younger too, because there's a hierarchy of like how you need to talk to people, like they're going to be like, what? Yeah, I was wiping your ass. How are you going to tell me how to eat? And I'm like, well, I kind of know what I'm talking about.
Or they might even make fun of you, like, oh, you're one of those chicken and broccoli people.
I mean, luckily my family isn't that way, but I feel like I'm stepping out of line sometimes. So when I came across what you were doing, I loved it because it's science backed, it's science based, but it's very easily digestible. Like you're just saying like you need your macro and your micros, and obviously you don't say it that way because you want so many people to understand it, but it's more like, okay, let's just get some meat in there. Let's get some veggies. And I love that because I see like the plans that you offer. And I'm like, I think I'm going to get my mom on this stuff because it's thoughtless.
Yeah.
And it's going to be given to her. And cause she's always like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, and she's like, I eat this. I'm not snacking. I stop at this hour. And I'm
I
like,
bet she's snacking. Everyone that says they're not snacking,
I go to her house.
Weight, you're snacking.
I go to her house and I'm like rummaging through all her cabinets because she always has like her little stashes everywhere. And like you were mentioning, you don't like blame. Like, yes, we all need to take responsibility. And then people are like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm eating everything right, but I'm not losing the weight.
Blame them.
Yeah, I'm not losing the weight, but it's like, but you did have like, I don't know, a latte with like vanilla in it, and then you also
personally
had.
seen your mom sneak a peppermint in her mouth after every meal.
I know, man.
That is funny. My wife,
that's snacking.
I met over 20 years ago, used to come. She was born and raised in Samoa. Western Samoa is British Samoa, is where she was actually born and lived there until she was about 6 or 7. They grew all their own food on their plantation.
Oh, cool.
Called a plantation. It was a village. They were very, very poor. It's 12 brothers and sisters.
Whoa.
And we're talking a 4-post hut with a grass thatch roof, no running water, no bathroom facilities in the house. There was out back, there was a hole and a board, and there was a pipe coming from the stream. It was one of those things. And
your kids are going to have it
they raised
hard.
chickens. Oh my, yeah. She's definitely the heavy at the house.
She tells the kind of stories where kids don't even believe.
Yeah. Well,
my mom used to tell me she rode her bike to her school. It was 2 miles and there's only 1 pedal.
Yeah.
I was like, bullshit.
Uphill both ways. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, in the snow. Well, they grew all their own food. They had chickens and pigs, and they would go out into the ocean and they would harvest whatever they could. And they had a really vibrant marketplace in Western Samoa where 3 generations of families would come and they would have, a
that's beautiful.
They would sell things, and I've been there and I would look in these jars with like eyeballs sticking out and stuff that was, that harvested from the floor of the ocean. And of course, I'm disgusted. I'm looking around for some barbecued something or other.
That's not vertical diet.
No. But they had no obesity in their family when they grew up there because they ate all whole foods that they raised themselves. When she was about 6, they moved to American Samoa. And in American Samoa, they had food stamps. And food stamps made them go from food poor to being food rich.
Highly processed foods as well.
Highly processed. To get to the island, the cheapest stuff was seed oils, vegetable oils, sugar, and flour. So they would start eating bread with sugar on it. And that started to be their diet. They no longer grew their food. They didn't have a marketplace because they didn't need to, because you could get cheaper food, just by going to the store with your food stamps and buying those items. And that's when obesity started to take over. So that's when her family started getting fat. Her father ultimately passed away from complications of diabetes.
Oof.
So that's one of the huge, I think, problems is that, and I think we all agree on this now. If you want to know what the cause of obesity is, it's calorie dense, hyper palatable, easy to digest, low nutrient dense foods. It's the processed foods. We're eating too much of them. They're just too easy to overconsume. That's the foundation of the obesity epidemic. We're overeating.
Yeah.
And we're overeating primarily those foods. And so, of course, most folks who are making recommendations, healthy recommendations, are whole foods first. And right behind that is higher protein, because it's satiating, retains lean body mass, has a high thermic effect of food. So anytime you want to intervene in someone's, current meal plan who's having trouble with obesity, you got to slim down the processed foods, like you said, the pantries. Mm-hmm. Open the pantries. That's where it all is. And of course, the fast food's much the same way. It's a combination. It's not just fats, and it's not just sugars. It's the combination of the two. Is usually in your donuts and your pastries and all of those really tasty foods. It's a blend of those, and you just overeat them. You can't help it.
And the increased amounts, where it's like before it might have been you only eat apple pie for Thanksgiving, but now it's so accessible. You can eat one every day if you wanted to.
And now they deliver it to your house. Like if you're like, I just want a slice of pie. Hey, Postmates, let's get it in this mouth.
And we're headed right into that season right now. The vast majority of weight gain, you've heard before, Lane Norton talks about this all the time, occurs between Thanksgiving and New Year's. We gain something like, I don't know what it is, 10, 12 pounds a year, or a certain percentage of your body weight each year. Probably 8 of that is gained over the holidays, not throughout the rest of the year. And we just keep adding on to that. So it is overconsumption. But saying move more, eat less is truthful, not useful. Mm-hmm. It doesn't help anybody. It's like, telling an addict, hey, just stop drinking.
Right.
Or,
It's like, how?
Yeah.
Teach me.
And so you do have to go in, you do have to intervene. You have to try and find a way to minimize those pantry foods and maybe some alternatives that are lower calorie, that still taste decent. But then start protein leveraging. See if you can get them to focus on protein. I have 2 kids, 7 and 9, and we have this challenge every day. I want ice cream, and I'll give them ice cream once they've consumed their protein for the day. And then I'm not too worried about it. And that came from Dr. Jose Antonio from the International Society of Sports Nutrition was giving a presentation at the National Strength and Conditioning Association's annual conference in Washington, D.C. It was probably a year before last. And he said about child's nutrition, he has 2 college-age girls who play sports. He said to everybody, and this room was packed with people because they wanted to hear him talk about kids' nutrition. And he said, get your kids 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight and forget about the rest.
That's easy.
And they'll be
just
healthy.
like, wow.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Really? It's hard to get them to eat a gram of protein because there's so many carbs running around and all their foods. I sit them down for breakfast. You've got your egg and your toast. The toast will be gone like that.
Yeah,
and now
delicious.
I'm fighting with them to eat the eggs. And so now I'm making French toast because the egg is in the toast and they have no
smart.
other option, So there's strategies you can use, I'll mix, that's kind of the monster mash.
Yeah.
I mix the bison with the rice and a little bit of bone broth. They can't eat just the rice.
Yep.
They have to eat the bison too. So that's what I love about the monster mash.
Yeah.
But those are all just little strategies that you come up with that, hopefully help people. And the exercise component is not even that big a piece.
Mm-hmm.
The research suggests that more exercise does not equal more fat loss. It's a tiny component. It's the calories. You can't, you say, outwork a bad diet. We've always heard that. But the science suggests that it's of minimal importance. It's great for health. It's great for your heart health and those kinds of things. But trading work for calories is a terrible way to try and lose weight. And so you have to keep focusing on the nutrition. A lot of nutritionists will just have people weigh their food for 1 week. Don't change a thing. Weigh your food for 1 week. And I know there's folks out there that hate the whole calorie counting thing, but until you have some basic understanding
you need
of
some
portion
data.
control,
Right.
You're not going to be able to make these decisions for yourself because we're really terrible at estimating the calories that we take in.
Yeah, the way that I see it, it's almost as if like if you're trying to get a hold of your finances,
Exactly.
you have to track how
Balance
much
your
you're
checkbook.
how much you're spending, how much money is coming in.
Yeah.
Then you can go, okay, I'm spending this much on entertainment every month. I'm spending this much on transportation. I'm spending this much on rent. Now you have a baseline to know where to adjust. Am I spending too much on rent, too much on my car or whatever? And I think it's the same thing with when you want to gain or lose weight. It's really the finance of your body. How much are you having too much body money, which turns into fat?
Yeah.
Or if you want to lose weight, how do you get rid of this body money? And you have to really track what's going in and out.
Secondary to protein leveraging, probably in terms of satiety and lean mass retention, although protein itself doesn't, do that. You do have to do some resistance training. I would prioritize that over cardio any day of the week. You get cardio from lifting weights. Who's ever lifted weights and not started breathing heavy? I would prioritize that just because you want to maintain lean mass. Because when people lose weight and don't work out, even if they're getting adequate protein, they will lose muscle tissue. And with inadequate sleep, they might lose over 50% muscle tissue.
Wow.
So those are all key components to address. But right behind protein leveraging, getting adequate protein, 1 gram of protein per pound of lean mass or goal weight would be ideal for an adult. I mentioned per pound for children would be something to shoot for. Right behind that is high satiety foods. And there's a satiety index that lists the kinds of foods that keep you full longer, just how you feel.
I need to know that. I get hungry so fast.
And there's a couple ways to do this. Eat a little slower. People who tend to eat faster tend to eat more.
I see. Okay.
And then eat higher satiety foods. Protein is number 1 on the list, high satiety foods. Boiled potatoes, oranges, there's a list that goes down. And the kinds of foods that when you eat them, you're full longer. So
That's why there's potatoes in the Monster Mash.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. Potassium is another huge component of that in terms of energy. I talked about the 2 biggest reasons people fail on diets is satiety. They're just hungry and they eat too much.
Yeah.
And energy. They're tired. Those are the 2 biggest reasons. So we try and mitigate those with these food choices, the high satiety foods, the high potassium foods, great for energy. You also see that I'm a proponent of putting a reasonable amount of salt on your diet. If you're not eating fast food, which you shouldn't, or packaged food, Pringles, etc.,
Do you eat McDonald's
No.
like once a month? Once a year?
I never do, but not because I'm some extraordinarily disciplined individual. And Mark Bell made fun of me on his podcast about this because I don't eat a lot of things that most people would tend to eat when they have cravings. And I've said this many years ago. I don't eat foods I like. I eat foods that like me. And I make that decision about an hour after I eat.
McDonald's loves
I
me.
eat foods that make me feel good. That's the problem.
I see.
I've
That's
always
true.
had a really sensitive stomach, and that will
I
get us
see.
into the next phase of the vertical diet that you mentioned in terms of easy to digest.
But let's say you
foods.
go on a road trip with your kids
Yeah.
and everyone pulls over
I'm
to
packing
McDonald's.
food. I brought a meal. It's in my bag right there. If I get hungry, I'm going to go over there and eat my meal.
That is discipline.
And now my kids, if they're hungry and I got to take them by Carl's Jr. or someplace like that, I just won't let them eat the French fries or the soda pops. I will get them a double burger and not make sure it doesn't have mayonnaise and stuff. And I know people like, you can't control everything.
Yeah.
Right.
But I can try and get them a prioritize protein is what I can do.
Yeah.
And ideally, there's menu items that I actually have this going into my next book, which is Vertical Kids.
Oh, cool.
I love that.
That's awesome.
I've looked at all of the fast food restaurants' menus. And I try and pick the food items that have a 2-to-1 protein to fat ratio.
Like a little cheat sheet.
Yeah.
That's
I just
awesome.
look for something that's higher in protein, lower in fat, and let her rip. If that is the only option. And this could be student athletes who are traveling with a team. They don't always have the ability to prepare meals or to get exactly what they want. So I try and provide them foods that they can have access to. My business partner travels all the time and he's overweight. And I had him come down to Vegas and stay with me for over 3 weeks. And we ate out at restaurants every single day. Right at the airport, ate at restaurants, ordered food from Instacart. But I showed him which foods to pick.
Love it.
He lost over 20 pounds in 3 weeks. And we just did 10-minute walks. We went to the gym and did some workouts too. But it wasn't an extraordinary exercise campaign. That's not what the focus of it was because he travels. And you guys probably all heard me talk ad nauseum about the importance of 10-minute walks and how beneficial and how convenient and that those are, how sustainable. Any client that you prescribe a 40-minute treadmill session to,
They're not going to do
It's
it.
daunting.
it's not only not terribly effective, as we just talked about in terms of trading calories for work, but it's not sustainable. It's not enjoyable. It's not something, there's too many barriers to entry to get in your car and drive to the gym and get on the treadmill. So I started doing these 10-minute walks after each meal, and it has so many more benefits in terms of blood sugar control, digestion, all of those things. So high protein, high satiety foods, probably the key components. It seems simple, but that's really the foundation of the original prescription of the diet.
I want to backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
So when you started like powerlifting and bodybuilding, I know fitness is a giant industry now.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, especially as an aspiring bodybuilder and powerlifter, there's just not that much financial reward. Like, did you have another job at the time to fuel those passions?
Yeah, I ultimately, right around 1996, after college and after working in the fitness industry, I was selling sports supplements for Beverly International, which was founded in, I think, 1967. And I was driving up and down the I-5 corridor with my minivan and going to gyms and
With like a catalog?
yeah, and handing out, making free shakes in a blender and that kind of thing. And I had a full-time job as a maintenance man in an apartment community. I eventually worked up to manage, and then was recruited to manage portfolios for $1 billion REIT.
Wow.
That had multifamily properties all over the
How long
country.
did that take?
10 years. Yeah. It's a lot of work, a lot of experience, but I worked with a developer and we developed a property. So I learned a lot about construction. I did construction through college. So I had some skills.
Yeah.
I had a skill set from
A lot of like operational skills, sales skills.
Yep. Construction management, that kind of thing. Finances. I was managing the books for the apartment communities. It's a $100 million property that I was running, one of them in Colorado. So I did have a skill set. And then I became a vice president of a telecommunications company up in Seattle. I had some experience with cable and television through those apartment communities because we provided those services to our residents.
So you were like a career person that just trained your ass off on the side.
I was working for other folks.
Yeah.
I was. I had a full-time job and I was training aside from that. It was my passion. And I tell people when they ask me about bodybuilding and powerlifting as a career, I tell them it's not a career. It's a passion. It might be a good resume builder or stocking stuffer for you to get clients, but so is education. So is an exercise science degree or some sort of, accreditation so that you can, but more so than anything, when you're working with clients, it's psychology. It's a lot of relationship building. We actually wrote a book called How to Be Successful in the Fitness Industry as a personal trainer doing one-on-one training, and have
you wrote that book too?
Yeah, it's on my website as well. I've traveled, I mentioned, all over the world, 200 seminars in 10 countries in all 50 states. And I've met a lot of gym owners and a lot of trainers, hundreds and hundreds and I see who's successful and who's not and the reasons why. And I came across a training model that was very successful. And one of the people who was implementing it best was a business partner of mine, Matt Wiedemer, out of Cincinnati, out of Beat Personal Training in Cincinnati. And he was a strength and conditioning coach for Pittsburgh, and then for what other team was he for? He worked with the Bengals. He studied under Buddy Morris, who's the current S&C coach for Arizona, and Detroit, I think he worked with. But he runs a very successful gym. His personal trainers bill out well over $1 million a year in personal training revenue. And it's through a system that is a successful system. And we, documented that just as a personal trainer. This isn't online stuff. This is actually actual trainers training actual clients for actual paychecks in a gym every day, still currently. And he has for 20 years and owned 12 gyms throughout this time.
Wow. What a stud.
Very successful gym operator. But I think that's a great business. I think it can be done now. When I was doing it, I was a personal trainer in college, after college. I was a high school soccer coach. I owned a couple of different gyms over the years. It was harder back then. Now with more people being involved in the industry and understanding the need and the importance of a coach, it's a good business, but you have to know as a personal trainer coming up in the industry how to be a successful entrepreneur. You have to know how to market yourself. You have to know how to obtain, retain clients. And he's got a chalkboard up in his gym. It's got clients. He's got them listed 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years.
Amazing.
This isn't, a 30-day online client, churn and burn business. Yeah. These are people whose weddings he's attended, whose children's graduation ceremonies he's attended.
A strong community.
Yeah. It is a fantastic, I think it's rewarding to be able to work with somebody that long and to be such a big influence in their life and for their health, their general health overall. This isn't the people competing in bodybuilding. These are, 40s, 50s, 60s-year-old folks who had come to him at one point or another with injuries or poor health diagnoses, and was able to get them into weightlifting, which, even the folks at Barbell Medicine, you're familiar with those folks, Austin Baraki and Jordan Fagenbaum, that's their prescription.
Jordan used to train at our gym.
Yeah. It's fantastic. That's their prescription. Dr. Nadolski with RP Strength, same thing. They prescribe weight training. Yeah. It's very effective, and it helps build confidence. It helps also, more than anything, it helps addict people to that behavior. When you pick up a barbell, like a deadlift, and then a week later you can do more, and a week later even more.
It becomes a fun game.
Yeah, we don't tell them it's neural adaptation. We tell them they're getting stronger, but they feel like they're getting stronger, from when they started. And eventually, with consistency, they'll start to build strength and retain lean body mass. And so, we prescribe barbells for them. So that it's been my whole life. A passion has been in personal training. I used to sit up in the science library at the University of Oregon scrolling through microfiche, which is like the 8-track player of stereos for old folks that remember. Yeah. We didn't have the internet back then. and they'd kick me out at midnight, but I would be reading studies and trying to pick and choose and find things. Now we've got extraordinary minds in the business. I mentioned Alan Aragon. We've got obviously Lane Norton and Brad Schoenfeld and Greg Knuckles. And the list goes on. And right here in town, we've got Brett Contreras now here in Vegas. So,
he's here now?
Yep, he's here now. There's just, and I mentioned the Barbell Medicine folks, and there's others out there who just have done all the hard work. They've got PhDs. This is all they do, and they spoon feed it to us. Yeah, it's so easy now. You don't have to go out and you don't have to know what they
listen to 8-track player.
No, you just you read a bunch of their stuff and maybe attend a seminar or two. I've attended the Barbell Medicine seminar. I attended Mark Ripeto's seminar. I got my CSCS just 2 years ago.
Cool.
After having an exercise science degree from the late 80s, I went back and
awesome.
and updated my information, and like I said, collaborated with a PhD RDN. So there's always a learning opportunity, but you don't have to know the mechanisms of action and the biochemistry and the organic chemistry. You don't have to be that guy. Actually, what the science suggests is that doctors and RDNs are less effective in helping people with weight loss than personal trainers, because you need to be there with your clients a lot. They need a lot of hand holding. Yeah. And so
until they develop the habit themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I act more as a catalyst. I like to take the information that's out there and then distill it down to my clients in a way that's understandable. You guys have probably had this experience when you go to a chiropractor and say, "Oh, my shoulder hurts," and next thing you know, they're reeling off like all the names of the
like the
infraspinatus and supraspinatus, and you're like, "Can you just tell me what to do and fix it?"
Yeah, am I sleeping wrong?
And that's what my clients will say to me. Just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
This isn't my career.
Yeah, I have a real job. I don't want to think.
Yes. I don't need to learn all of this.
Right.
Tell me exactly what to do. And that kind of gets us into the place where I'll prescribe a specific diet, one that I believe works, but I'll also help them understand that, hey, there's options here. You can go keto. You can do intermittent fasting. You can do vertical. You can do a whole variety of things. There's many paths to the same destination. The foundation is the same. You're going to have to create a calorie deficit, whether you're counting or not counting. You're going to have to find a way to do that.
Yeah.
And then try and accommodate those people based on their schedule and their eating preferences, like you say, with your relatives, et cetera. And they're like, "Oh, I'm not cutting that out." And like, okay, well, let's find a way to incorporate it in a portion size.
That's why you're good, because I'm like, oh, then you don't want help.
Yeah.
All right, then don't ask me.
It's the hardest to help your family, though.
It really is.
Yeah, there's like the defense mechanism. Like, "Oh, I saw you shit yourself when you're 5. Don't tell me what to do."
Exactly. You barely learn how to wipe your ass.
And that is true. I hired my wife a personal trainer.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be that guy, because that's a very difficult relationship. She gets up and weighs in the scale one morning, is 2 pounds heavier. You're the devil. You told me to eat that, But what I've noticed is, and this is a huge piece, we talked about protein leveraging, we talked about high satiety. Well, let's get on to actions that result in big results. I said that doctors and RDNs probably aren't the best people for weight loss. Personal trainers are. The number one most effective behavior for weight loss in all the research is meal prep. Big surprise, I own a meal prep company, right?
Yeah.
Well, meal prepping, that's what the bodybuilding, figure, physique, bikini industry does very, very well. They tote around their 6-pack bag with their Tupperwares. I've got my thermos over there. I'm always bragging about the thermos. It'll keep a meal hot for 10 hours. And I carry those with me everywhere, even when I'm working out of the home, because I have to go pick my kids up at school. And you mentioned, what if the kids got to go to Carl's Jr. or something, if you're in a hurry and you got to run them to practice or whatever, I've got my thermos. I don't leave home without it. I would no sooner put my kid in a football game without pads and a helmet than I would leave the house without my thermos. Meal prepping. So if my wife's got prepped meals in the little Tupperwares in the refrigerator, I know that everything's going well. She just reached out to me the other day because she started a really wonderful business. Facebook Lives, selling the kind of clothing that you would see people in her Polynesian community.
Oh, cool.
And it's exploded. My whole house has now become
nice.
her business.
That's awesome.
The living room, we took the dining room table out. Now that's an office.
Wow.
The den is her store. It's all her clothing.
That's awesome.
And she's starting to import stuff from Bali, and she goes down to LA and fills the van full of stuff, and she's selling stuff. Well, the sacrifice has been, she hasn't been on her diet. Now she's eating what's left over from the kids' plate. And she's not prepping meals because she's so busy running her business, and she gained some weight. And she put her post on Instagram showing how she gained 20 pounds in the last 6 months as a result of not having a plan. And so I said, look, you're Richie Rich now. I married a sugar mama, right? She's making money. I said, you need to get somebody to prep your meals for you. I said, just so happens I own a meal prep company.
That is so funny.
I can help you with that.
What a coincidence.
Wow,
Yeah.
would you look at that?
Yeah. And so I said,
She's like, did you just sell me, dude?
yes, get online and pick the meals you want. I said, if they're not in the fridge, you're not going to eat them. You're going to be, picking and like you said, over.
I noticed that for
snacking.
myself too. The reason why my freezer is stocked full of meal preps is the minute I realize I'm hungry, and if I don't have something there, it's usually the devil taking over. Yeah. and you're like, pizza is the best choice right now.
That's been studied as well. That's food reward. If you're hungry and you don't have something already pre-prepared, you'll open the fridge and pick something you're hungry for, and you'll overconsume it.
Yeah.
Same as if you leave the house to go to a fast food place. You're thinking, oh, what do I want? Oh, yeah. And now you're going to that place and you're overconsuming. You're ordering more than you need and consuming more than you need.
Yeah.
But if it's prepared and you have a schedule, then that becomes easier in terms of compliance. Plus, it saves time.
Yeah, or even if you go to the supermarket hungry,
bad idea.
You come back with things you don't need. Yeah, if you
make a list, stick to the list.
Yeah.
That's almost impossible at Costco. You go into Costco and you're
like, I didn't know I needed
for a
that.
thing of groceries. Next thing you know, you got 3 carts and they're full of everything you can imagine. That place is impulse buy, but that's food reward. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
Another thing, and you hate saying this because it sounds boring, it's effective. When you tend to eat the same things every day, you tend to eat less of them. And people are like, oh, I like a lot of variety. Well, okay, but you're going to have to manage that variety with portion control. Because when you eat stuff that you enjoy, you tend to overconsume it.
That's true.
And we're bad at estimating portion sizes. We usually underestimate by up to 50% or more. Sometimes closer to 70, 80% underestimation of the calories that we're consuming.
Have you always been this way? Like, so you were obviously really good in sports because you got a scholarship. Where did you learn this from?
I've always been a bit in this. One of the knocks on me is I'm a bit OCD. I've always kind of been pretty organized and pretty regimented. And like I said, I had my Tupperware in college, and I've never veered from that. I was in bed by 10 p.m.
Like, who taught you this stuff, or like who did you observe that you were like, they're doing something that clicks with me?
You know, when you read, back then it was Muscle and Fitness. When you read those magazines and you see the schedules that these bodybuilders adhere to.
They're crazy, yeah.
Between the dieting and the training and the cardio and the sleeping and all, it's just everything's so regimented. You have to pick. Even in college, I had to train between 5 and 6:30 in the morning because I had to be in class at a certain time, and then I had to work after. Everything had to be on a schedule, including the meals. And I had to have them with me because when the timer went off, and in college, you can't afford to stop at restaurants. You just can't. So you're doing everything you can. I just had a client recently who eats in the cafeteria, and it's, oh my God, the pictures he would send me, pizza, French fries. I'm like, we got to do better. Show me what all is offered there. It's terrible, the food in there.
Yeah.
And kids' school lunches, they're horrendous. I always make my kids own and send them to school with them because, and I don't want to guilt any parents who don't have that opportunity or time, but control what you can and understand that the choices that are out there are terrible. They really are. They're very high in fat, very low in protein. This protein's expensive. High in fat and carbs, we should say, and all that processed food that you get. And that's the more affordable stuff. So those are all challenges that, I don't have all the answers for, but I've been pretty disciplined. Everybody always knew that my chariot turns into a pumpkin at 10 p.m.
Me too.
And I am out. And I've been that way ever since college. And, most of it was because a lot of the guys I trained with were already big and strong. And I mean, some of those guys, I trained with IFBB pro Aaron Madron, who was a freak. He was on the cover of magazines. He was up and coming. He was kind of reminded me of Jay Cutler back. And then he was just huge, 32-inch quads and 21-inch calves. And he would flip, his tricep would flap on stage.
Wow, amazing.
This was my training partner. This was the guy I would lift with every day. And this was the point at which I actually decided, hey, probably better off to start a career because bodybuilding is not going to be it. And we're posing together in 1997, and I'm looking in the mirror at this guy who's just a freak. And I'm looking at myself. And at some point, you got to be honest with yourself, And I'm like,
he's always standing on the good side of the mirror. Just stand over here.
Like,
he's got the good light for some reason.
And I had obviously not earned my pro card at that moment. I didn't earn my pro card until I turned 40 at the Masters Nationals.
Wow.
But having said that, I was the best I ever was because I trained with Flex Wheeler. Yeah. And it kind of goes back to when you said you originally saw my kind of training and it was heavy and it was hard. Flex was the higher rep guy, the more volume guy. He actually wouldn't let me squat. He wouldn't let me bench. He wouldn't let me deadlift. He thought that it didn't contribute to the muscles that I was trying to build. I was an ass and lower back and hip squatter, so I didn't build much leg.
Oh,
so he would put me on leg presses with a close stance with the feet down and just expose the quad, lots of range of motion, high volume, 20 rep sets as we were doing at the time, 2-minute rest periods, back at it. So we do a ton of volume in 50 minutes out of the gym, come back later that night, 2 a days, 6 days straight, 8 meals a day, 9 hours of sleep.
8 meals a day?
Nap every afternoon.
Moly. How long are those naps? Because I'm a big fan of naps too.
Usually under 30 minutes. If you extend much beyond that, you get into REM sleep, then you wake up groggy.
Yeah, me too. I just need 20 minutes.
Yep, 20 minutes is pretty good.
Yeah.
People understand that you do them consistently, you almost get trained, you fall out within a minute.
Yeah, me too.
The first 20-minute nap, you might not fall out at all. Try it again the next day, maybe 10 minutes in. Try it again the next day, maybe 5 minutes in. Now, I lay down, I could be out cold and wake up in 20 minutes. It's like a refresher.
Sometimes if I blink too slow, I fall asleep.
Yeah.
I'm gone.
At what moment, or what is it that like really got you addicted? Like, what was that? I mean, if there is that moment, or what was the draw that you're like, I actually don't want to do soccer at this point.
Yeah.
And this is way cooler.
I talked about that. When you touch weights and you start seeing yourself get stronger or see your body change, that's pretty addicting. I see a lot of CrossFitters, particularly women, in powerlifting meets now. Because they touched a big weight.
They crossed over, yeah.
They went over and deadlifted.
It's badass.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, bodybuilding's harder than powerlifting. And the powerlifter buddies out there are going to hate me.
No, I think so too.
Deep water is a hard place to be. And CrossFit's like that too. There's a lot of cardio in it.
And bodybuilding's a 24-hour sport.
It really is. Powerlifting, you train a little less often. You could work up. Like if I'm trying to make a decision, if I'm in the middle of a workout and I'm kind of tired and we're getting toward the ends of the workout, and if I have to make a decision between doing 3 sets of 20s on the squats.
Oh, Jesus.
And between just throwing another plate on and knocking out a 5-rep set at 90% of my 1 rep max, I'm always defaulting to the heavy set.
Yeah, 3 sets of 20 will make you throw up.
Yes. And I just did them yesterday. So I'm dragging today. I even had like a little, I don't know if you see my eye. I had a little, my eye bled a little bit from doing 3 sets of 20 yesterday. Because you're just sucking wind. You set the weight down, you walk away, and then the wave hits you.
Yeah.
Like 10, 15 seconds after you set the weight down, you start walking away like, yeah. Whoosh. And you're sucking and you're looking around the room. You're like, breathing like this. And here I am trying to preach to people about not over-exercising or overtraining. I'm as bad as they come.
We did this crazy drop set with, Dr. Mike Israetel.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I love his stuff.
We did this crazy leg press drop set where it's like we have max weight between 10 to 15 reps. Yeah. Immediately take a plate off, bang on another 5, another plate off, bang on another 5. And then in body weight until failure, my legs... Like my body was just convulsing, and that was just 1 set.
And if you're with Mike,
2 more sets,
the range of motion is far more than what you're used to historically. Yeah, that was the big difference. I think when I worked with Flex in 2008 and 2009, he was the one who trained me to get my pro card. The big difference was he had me do a significantly greater range of motion on all of my movements, in addition to the higher reps and the shorter rest periods and the increased volume. The powerlifting, of course, I would cut it just to what I needed to get my white lights.
It's for competition.
It's for competition.
It's different.
You're not going to do more than's necessary.
Yeah.
And so I always thought, this is what I thought way back when I started lifting. I thought the stronger I got, the bigger I would get. And in fact, that's not the case. I got a lot stronger and didn't get very big. And some of the muscles that got bigger were muscles that aren't all that great for stage. Your lumbar, your hips, your glutes.
Yeah.
Not great for bodybuilding.
Yeah, you want that X shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Flex had me, actually wouldn't let me squat, bench, or deadlift for months and months and months. And but I trusted, that I was with, a great coach.
You ever look over at the squat rack and just feel so sad?
I wanted to. One time he let me incline press because there were cameras down at Gold's Venice. And I wanted to incline press. So I told him throw 405 in the bar. And incline was always a big strength of mine.
Yeah.
And so just one time when the cameras went on, he let me incline press. But other than that, it was dumbbells, full range of motion, not turning the weights this way and banging them off your chest here, but making sure that they went all the way down. He was really particular
on range of motion,
about range of motion. Same with the leg press stuff. It was always the bend at the knee, not at the hip. That's not going to do much for your quad at the hip. So the same kind of thing Mike has you do is what Flex had me do back in 2009. And it's stuck with me ever since to when somebody talks about power building, I'm like, well, hold up. What's your goal?
Yeah.
People talk about how I bodybuilded and powerlifted at the same time. No, I did one and then I did the other. They're very different.
Yeah.
Bodybuilding greatly contributed to my powerlifting success. It built a huge gas tank for GPP, all of the volume and the sets and the reps that I did, and I had great cardiovascular fitness so I could recover well. I had no weaknesses because you do so many different exercises from all different ranges,
variations
rear delt,
too.
So many variations. Yeah, I had no weak points. All of that helped. Obviously, it built more muscle tissue. A bigger muscle can become a stronger muscle. But powerlifting does not help bodybuilding. The muscles don't know weights. I don't have anything good to say about powerlifting in terms of its contribution to bodybuilding. And everybody's like, what about Ronnie Coleman? Because he was a powerlifter. Very different thing. And Ronnie's big lifts, his big deadlift and his big front squats and stuff like that, that was for the camera. That was a one-time deal. That's not how Ronnie trained. Ronnie trained with an extraordinary amount of volume. And so I always discourage people from trying to lift heavy as a driver of building mass. It's not the way to do it. It's two completely different sports.
Out of all the things that you've done, from like powerlifting, bodybuilding, writing books, working up even just the corporate ladder, and like getting a soccer scholarship and all that,
becoming a father,
helping turning in your dining table into a new like fabric store. What is the most proud thing that you've done? You feel like?
Obviously having kids is a huge change. When I stopped bodybuilding back in 1997, I started my own company, and I started a telecommunications company. I built that into a multi-million-dollar business. I almost went completely broke on it. I was eating McDonald's dollar meals every day. I was living in a cheap
vertical
apartment with nope, not at all. I wouldn't, and I couldn't afford to do anything but. I'd sold my home. I'd cashed in my 401k. I had over $100,000 in credit card debt, and I started a telecommunications company. I had experience in that, obviously, because I was a VP of a telecommunications company, but it's a lot harder, and it takes a lot more time, and there's a lot less income than you'd ever imagine going into any business. So always account for that fact. It's going to take longer, and it's going to cost more. And so you better be able to weather the storm no matter what business you're in, as you know. There's no easy ones. I've never had an easy business, and I built 5 multi-million-dollar companies in the last 17 years.
Nice.
Telecommunications was the first company. We used the monies from the telecommunications company, built that into a $25 million a year business. We were in 22 states with over 100 employees.
That's amazing.
It was a big company for us. We used the monies from that to start investing in real estate. Started building single-family subdivisions, buying multifamily properties, converting them into condos, running some as apartments, had some commercial property. Then 2008, the real estate market collapsed, and I was fully vested. I had over $60 million in real estate at a retail value at the time, which declined in value by up to 40%. And of course, the banks are knocking on your door and they're like, oh, you got to pay down these loans. We need 20% debt to equity. Here's the new equity position. So I had to sell everything I had. I sell my homes. I had to sell my cars. And just to get out from under all of that real estate and start all over again. I mean, I was completely broke at the time.
Damn.
It took me years to unwind that financial position. And so I started an engineering firm with a partner of mine. And we just started because there was about $4 billion in monies allocated as a result of 9/11 into retrofitting all the airports so that all the baggage would have to go through a separate screening.
Yeah.
And so we hired engineers and had them draw up the as-builts and started bidding on those jobs with the airports. The generals on those jobs was generally Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, those folks. And so we would subcontract with them to do some of that work. And that became reasonably successful. That was a good business for us. And
with like the big, I guess, 2008 crash and having to like liquidate all the properties that you had, what's like the biggest takeaway lesson from that, from a personal standpoint? So for example, like for me and her, we're in our building phase where we want to start buying rental properties and have passive income and stuff. Like, what's something that you would tell me, or even like your younger self, like this is a safeguard that you should put in place so that if shit hits the fan, it doesn't go all the way down to zero?
Yeah, boy, I tell you, that one surprised everybody. Over $4 trillion in market value disappeared almost overnight. That's not anything that you could prepare for. Real estate was fantastic. I owned 3 homes as well.
Let's say you had 20% equity in all of them, would it still have done that? Or 50% equity in all of them, would it have done that?
At 50%, no, but I don't think you should ever try and put too much equity into a single property.
Yeah.
An investment property. Your home, if you don't want to pay the mortgage interest, but an investment property is going to return to you on top of the mortgage interest. That's other people's money. I'm happy investing other people's money. Yeah. It's a risk game. The story about that is I didn't grow up wealthy. My pops worked for the government. My mom was a house mom. And so I didn't have fancy stuff. My dad owned a Pinto, of all things. So I didn't have fancy stuff. That wasn't my upbringing. So to me at the time, it was like Monopoly. It was just a numbers game. At the time,
it was an unemotional thing. It's just you're just building.
It really was, and it's a good word, emotion. People, they try and treat their businesses like kids, and they're not. And I know, and I've started numerous companies, and you get passionate about it, and you get excited, and this is going to be great. It's still a business. It's a living, breathing thing, and it has needs, and you have to supply those needs, or the thing's going to wilt and die. There's no question. But you got to be careful how much. Like I was signing personal guarantees on all of my real estate, and I had to for my home and my business in order to get the loans, and that's a hard place to be. I would recommend against that. Once you start, signing personal guarantees, then they're going to scoop in and take your house from you if something goes awry. But I mean, that was an extreme situation. It happened in the 80s. It happened again in 2008. I think real estate's a good investment. I don't think it's something that you should do passively. I've had lots of people ask me about running multifamily properties, and I'm like, you want to be there, or have economies of scale such that you have enough units to be able to hire a manager and a maintenance guy. But if you're buying properties, or if you're investing in somebody else who says, oh, this is rentals, these things are great, they're a lot of work. And I know it. I was in the industry. I was sweeping garbage areas and plunging toilets every Thanksgiving and Christmas, and cleaning out garbage disposals for a decade, and running huge properties. I had 600 unit property in Oregon, a 1,200 unit property in Colorado that I was running. I owned 125 units in Everett, 100 units in Linwood, and 60 units in downtown Seattle. And I owned 80 units over at the coast there in Washington.
So not very many then.
No. But it's a lot. You're just starting out.
No, I'm kidding. That's a lot.
Every property had a property manager and a maintenance guy. Because if you're trying to run to Home Depot at 11 o'clock at night because somebody called and their toilet busted, that's a hard business. It's maybe some place to start, but I would rather group with a couple other investors and find a property that had some sort of ability to be run like a business with an individual that was responsible for those things. So you can provide better service, obviously. But I still think it's a good investment. Obviously, you have to be good at running a pro forma and seeing if there's an upside so that you're not getting into a property where your expenses exceed your income. But I don't want to get too deep into that. But just to say that be cautious how much you leverage yourself, particularly in terms of things like monthly recurring expenses like a mortgage or a lease, and then staff. Those are probably 50% of your controllable operating expenses. And if you start, those expenses don't go away when business slows down.
Yeah.
That's the thing you have to be really cautious of. I like to start a working model and get some income first, and then only invest such that when it's scalable, so I can see that I can just repeat that and keep repeating that successful behavior. That's the big thing. We were able to put $1,000 down on a piece of land. This was in the boom in 2004, 5, and 6.
Awesome.
$1,000 down on a piece of land, and the bank would loan the rest of it.
Holy moly.
And the construction costs. And so we were building homes for $1,000 down. The bank was financing everything else for us.
God.
And then when the market flipped, we were doing 3 to 5% down on a multifamily property, and they were financing the construction costs of the retrofit because we were doing condo conversions. We were buying apartment communities, converting them into condos, and selling them individually. And we would do it with about, I think, 3% down on the property, and they were loaning us the construction costs to refurbish the entire place. That will never happen again. Yeah. You'll never see that again. We took advantage of it when we could, but nobody foresaw, but for a few speculators, foresaw that market crash. So it's hard for me to make recommendations based on something that's so unique. Having said that, I have not yet. gotten back into that industry. I'm extremely knowledgeable about the multifamily industry and construction, but I just can't find myself investing in it. So, plus I love what I'm doing now. It's what I've always wanted to do since college, but the opportunity wasn't there. And now with social media and the so many more people involved in this industry, with the meal prep company, obviously, and the ebooks and the online work that we do and the personal training that I do with professional clients as well, we've built a really nice business out of this, and intend to keep growing that.
That's awesome.
Yes. Okay. So last question, because man, this is really cool. Like I look over and I'm like, oh man, we're still filming. Like there's cameras. I'm just so engaged. But going back to this question, if like everything were to disappear, everyone that you know is gone, you're left with yourself, knowing everything that you've accomplished, all the ups and downs, the peaks and valleys that you've gone through. What is that one thing that if you're sitting there that you're like, man, I am so happy that I achieved that thing?
Wow.
Because you've done so much.
Yeah. I don't look at any of it. People ask me, oh, your pro card or your world records in powerlifting or your, the businesses that you ran. Those were all, really wonderful experiences. But I got to tell you, not to sound corny, but I was talking about my wife who had lived in Western Samoa and moved to American Samoa. When she was 26 years old, she moved to the United States. On the island of Samoa, it's a 25 mile an hour speed limit. And there's no lights.
What?
There's one stop sign on the whole island.
Crazy.
Right? And she'd never been off the
chill.
island. It is chill. It's very easy-going.
I love it.
And the pace, they're fantastic people. I love going there and just the relax. They call it, you've heard of island time?
Yeah.
Yes.
That is definitely,
It's like be there at 3, but everyone shows up
yeah,
at 5.
hey, it's almost 3. She goes, it's okay. Everybody shows up at 4 or 5. She flew to the U.S. When she was 26 years old and landed in Seattle and rented a car and got out on the freeway. That's a 6-lane freeway of cars doing 75 miles an hour.
She's like white knuckling everything.
Yeah, the whole way. But she picked up a penny saver when she landed. And then we had run an advertisement. I was vice president of a telecommunications company in Seattle. And we'd run an ad for call center employees. And she picked up the penny saver and she responded to the story or to the ad and came in and applied for a job. And when she walked in, I was just like,
This magic moment.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, she was, of course, in an island dress from neck to toe. It was a flowered dress and she had a flower in her ear.
Ooh, beautiful.
Long hair, just the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And I was like, you're hired. And I think back now and I'm like, I so would have been that hashtag Me Too guy.
Oh,
the
man.
creepy boss guy. If that had happened, more recently,
Yeah.
But it was some time, probably over a year that she was employed there before we actually started dating. And I tell you, if I look back now, I think that she was part of all of it.
Yeah,
Not
absolutely.
just part of it, but a partner in it. And probably, largely responsible behind the scenes for all of my success.
That's
to date.
beautiful.
And so I would say if there was one thing, it would be having that one moment in my life that I think changed my life was probably meeting my wife. And it's the same today. It's crazy.
That's beautiful.
How did you know she was the one? I know I said that was the last question, but I'm nosy.
Well, when I first saw her, of course,
That was
just,
it.
Men are creatures of the eyes. But I'll tell you this, and the reason that we started dating, after she'd worked for us for, 8 or 9 months, she moved to Missouri. And I didn't realize how, I don't know what to say because we'd worked together every single day, obviously. I didn't realize how much I felt for her until she came back. Like 3 months later, she called and she said, can I have my job back? And I'm like, yeah, you can have your job back. She came back and she came into the call center and it was a big call center full of employees. And I was at the front of the call center and I saw her. She walked in again, long dress, like the same look. She still and sells those dresses today. All these many years later, I still get to see her every single day in those beautiful dresses with the flowers in her hair. And I got up and I walked across the room and I hugged her. That was the first time I'd ever touched her.
Wow.
And it was just
That's ballsy.
The electricity, she's like, I was just, for some reason, hey, welcome back. So good to see you. I gave her a hug. Oh my God. The electricity that went through my body at that moment. It's still that way today.
It was like
crazy
when
we talk
reps.
about it. Yeah.
His knees were spaghetti.
It was like that. And from that moment, I still remember that that day. So I don't mean to get too corny with your crowd, but that's
No way.
amazing.
you asked the question, and that to me,
we don't even say R's. We say W's. We've invented this word for cute that's called CUNY. So there's no way you can
very cute.
outcorn us.
yeah. So and to have her partner with me, and now on her own venture.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's been exciting. Like I mentioned, over the last 6 months, having her built her own business, and many times throughout my career, I have converted our home or our apartment into a business, a small business that we run together. And now she's doing the same thing, and it's just so exciting to watch. Here's what's really interesting about that, because all those years, you know how it is you're constantly on your phone.
Yeah,
you run your entire business, emails, texts, DMs, and all the. I've gotten well over 100,000 DMs, as you probably are familiar with, over the last 3 or 4 years, from people just asking questions, commenting on things, you know, with the Vertical Diet ebook and what have you. You're constantly on, and if you're not answering stuff, you're researching other stuff, you know, or watching, videos or reading whatever. So over the course of this last 6 months, she has been more and more engaged in speaking to her customers, finding products to order, shipping, developing, building a business. And so I'll say something to her and I won't get an answer. And she'll be like, huh, what? And I'm like, nah,
Nice.
That's awesome. All those years of her complaining, you're always on your phone.
Nice.
I'm running a business here.
She's like, I get it.
Yeah, she does. She laughs. She's like, oh my God, I become you.
That's funny.
That's not so bad.
Yeah. Well, Stan, thank you so much for your time. I know we went over time like crazy, but thank you for sharing your story. If people want to but I know there's going to be a ton of our listeners that want to get in on like the vertical diet or just connect with you in any way.
Yeah.
Give it to us.
Everything's at Stan Efferding. StanEfferding.com is my website. On there is a link to the vertical diet for my meal prep company. We deliver nationwide.
I get them delivered.
Yeah.
They're so bomb.
I told you I'd like to take credit for it, but the chefs up there did a fantastic job. I said, here, I'd like you to make me this. And they were like, shh. I'm like, damn, this is good. So now I'm hooked. I can't even make my own Monster Mash anymore. I have to buy.
Yeah, I actually saw one of your videos from long time ago where you were making Monster Mash.
Yeah.
And so I started making my own. But then when I tried yours, I was like, this is better than anything.
I'm the same way. Yeah. And I have to buy it. They don't make it for me for free.
Yeah.
And I could build it myself cheaper from Costco, but I buy my own Monster Mash. I have a lot of great YouTube videos that I put a lot of time and energy into. Stan Efferding's my YouTube. Instagram, Stan Efferding. And there's a lot of stuff on there. So that's always the easiest way. Just through my name, just find me at Stan Efferding. And
the easiest, smartest way ever. Thank you so much. Yeah. Continue to spread the knowledge, continue to motivate, inspire, because we're definitely looking at you and going like, wow, he's doing the right stuff. Let's do that. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.